Okay, I'll do the call to order. This is the June 2022 public meeting of the Needham Library Board of Trustees. I will take a roll call first to confirm that all trustees and persons anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. Trustees, Vice Chair Anna Geraldo Kerr.
Here.
Secretary Jay Fialkoff.
Here.
Tom Harkins, oops, not here yet. Carol Thomas.
Here.
Rob Pettit.
Here.
And did I get all the trustees? And yeah, I got everybody. Okay, and now staff members, we have Director Kim Hewitt. We have Program Specialist Gay Allen Dennett.
Here.
We have Faith Chrisley. I don't know exactly what title we go by for you, Faith.
I think it's Recording Secretary,
Recording
but
Secretary.
I'm here.
Okay. Dimitri, Vice Director.
No, Assistant Director, here.
Assistant Director, sorry. And that's all the staff we have here tonight as participants. Okay, and we have also from the Library Foundation Needham, the Joan Smith.
Oh.
Okay, so welcome everybody. We have this is the open meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. It's being conducted as a remote meeting under the Act relative to extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state emergency and signed June 16, 2021. It allows public bodies to meet remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded. For remote participants, this meeting will allow public comments by means of the chat function only. For this meeting, the board is convening by Zoom as posted on the town website, identifying how the public may join. This meeting is being recorded. Be aware that others may be able to see you. Take care not to unintentionally share your screen and mute your phone or computer when not speaking. For effective and clear conduct of the meeting's business and to assure accurate meeting minutes, the chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda and then invite members to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After members have spoken, the chair will afford comments via the chat function, which will be monitored by library staff and become part of the official record. As required by the Act, voting will be done by roll call. If there's a technical problem that prevents completion of the meeting, we'll reconvene at 7 p.m. on July 12th, 2022. So I'd like to request a motion that call the meeting to order at 7:06 p.m.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? Anna.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
And Kay. And please record that Tom Harkins is now present. Good. Okay. So the first order of business, we have a bit of a fair amount to cover tonight. So I'll try to keep things moving along. So the minutes, does anybody want to comment on the minutes or have any questions on the minutes? Nothing? No corrections? Okay, great. That's a first. So thank you, Faith, for your hard work on the minutes. I will move to adopt the minutes.
I stop. I do want to get my proofreading credit here for the minutes.
Oh yes, thank you, Jay, for I know this as secretary.
Faith surely deserves most of the credit, but I deserve now that we unblemished minutes, I want to get at least my little piece.
Yes, that's right, Jay. Thanks to you too, and it's a job. So thanks for doing it as secretary. So I'm going to call for adoption of the minutes of May 10th, 2022.
Second. I don't know if we had a second, but.
Second. Okay, that's good. Carol, second. So roll call. Anna.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
And me. Aye. All right. So
who moved it? Who moved the approval?
Well, I moved it, which I understand is okay because
yes, it is. Thank you.
Robert rules. So Kim, we are ready for your director's report.
Right. So as you see, the first thing on my report was about our Wi-Fi update. They did come yesterday and we have Wi-Fi in most of the building now. So very exciting. We are having them come back out tomorrow to finish up, hopefully. It might take until Thursday or Friday to really be all set. And you know, we'll have lots of announcements and excitement when that happens. But for now, most of the second floor is good, and large swaths of the first floor. It's all dependent on where they have the access points that they were able to put in. And he just wasn't able to finish it, so we gave him priority areas. So we're very excited.
Bravo!
How much does it cost to put Wi-Fi back on balloons and have them?
That's a good question. Yeah. So we're in our fiscal year close. There's a lot happening every day, things moving around to figure out how to spend everything down. So Jenna White has been extremely instrumental in making that process run smoothly as possible. And I can't imagine how much smoother it'll go next year when I have a little more knowledge about it. And also she's full-time. So I look forward to that. The Library Foundation graciously approved our grants. We had several grants that we asked for them to consider. So we'll be ordering new book bags, or bags, I guess I should say, for the Materials by Mail program. We have some new furniture and seating coming for the children's department. A lot of their chairs before were fabric chairs that, you know, haven't been upgraded in several years and we're kind of not looking so great. So we just, you know, we're upgrading kind of the functionality of those areas. We're also getting some new furniture for the lobby area to replace the wingback chairs, which I'm really excited about. They'll kind of be two different colors, like a blue and a kind of green that goes nicely together. And they have little outlets on the side. So we're going to work with the electrician to make sure that we can actually have those be operational. But we're just so excited. And we also got a small book drop, kind of a mobile book drop thing to put inside the second floor near the reference desk so that people can actually drop off books on the second floor. And they also funded our One Read program, which will be happening this fall. And the book is Thank You, Mr. Nixon by Gish Jen. So we're really excited about all of that. Some of that has started to, like some of those orders have started to happen, but we were prioritizing what needed to happen with our municipal funding. So we haven't ordered all of that just yet. There was a lot coming in to deal with the bookshop move. And so we're kind of giving our custodians a little breather, and then we'll be ordering this stuff in the coming weeks. So I'm very excited about that.
May I just interject that I heard informally from members of the Library Foundation that how pleased and happy and impressed they were with the grant, the real formal grant writing process that Kim undertook at their request, and she did a great job writing, excellent grants requests. Thank you.
And to my staff as well that wrote them, or wrote some of them. It was a good process to go through. And they were so helpful in helping me ahead of writing them. So I totally credit them for being so communicative about their needs, because that led to the success of them, I think. So very, very excited, but thank you.
Hey, can I ask, what is the amount of the grant?
Well, it's all separate. So they're separate grants into individual grants. I believe it was somewhere around $25,000
Total?
Yeah, total. Yeah, something that's ballpark. I can look it up eventually and send it to you, but it's somewhere around 25,000.
Just to have an idea. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah. We're
congratulations.
And thanks to the foundation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Big thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Foundation.
So we also partnered with the Needham channel a few times this past month. They interviewed me to learn more about me and discuss kind of what's been happening at the library. So that was a really great outreach opportunity. And then I spoke a lot during our interview about summer reading, and then they decided they wanted to do a whole separate program about our summer reading. So Paula Dugan and Aaron Bassett were interviewed to talk about summer reading programs. So those are all on YouTube now. Aaron had some very successful additional study nights based on the success of the first few that I reported last time. Sarah has gotten underway with our new social media team. They're being tasked with coming up with some guidelines for posts, as well as evaluating some scheduling software to make it easier to kind of have a overall plan for our media, which I'm really, really excited about seeing where we are, hopefully in like 6 months from now, when maybe some of this will be together. No rush if Sarah's listening. Several of us went to the Massachusetts Library Association conference in May. Sarah Breen was elected as our new incoming assistant treasurer, which is a new role for the association. So she'll be doing that for about 3 years, which I think is a really excellent step for her in her supervisory role here, and just gaining some new skills or building on current skills. I was officially elected as president of the association, which starts July 1st. So look out, world.
Congratulations.
A lot going on.
Thanks. Brava. Yeah.
Thanks. And so this will be year 2 of that for me, where the first year was vice president, then president, and then you serve as past president. So we'll see how it goes. Technical services has a lot going on right now. They're in the process of setting up acquisitions module, which works with our our computer software on the back end, how we check out books, all of that. And there's a certain module that we have access to but had not been using, and instead we're using paper-based systems. And this is a really exciting step, because for patrons, what this will mean is that when we're ordering books in the future, once this is set up, they will see immediately in Encore, where you go to place a book on hold or whatever, you'll immediately see a list of libraries that have things on order. And I'm sure you've noticed that in the past with other libraries. Needham does not show up because we haven't been using the acquisitions module. And so this will make it much easier for patrons to see that we actually have it. So they're not sending us duplicate requests to purchase something that we maybe already have purchased, but it just isn't in our system yet. And it eases things up on the back end for us quite a bit. So I'm so excited and so grateful to Ran, because when I hired her, I was thinking, we'll give her a year before we're making this big change. And she came on board and was like, why aren't we doing this? And I was like, yes, okay. So she mustered the energy, and she's been, just really doing an amazing job.
Wonderful.
Yes. So they've also been working on organizing our Library of Things material in there, which has all, I think, arrived at this point for the most part. And we're hoping to have that collection available by September. With Rand, kind of her attention is on the fiscal close and setting up acquisitions module, which takes quite a bit of work. So the Library of Things is kind of holding on, and we think September will be a nice time to just announce it and have it all out. Danielle Tawa has been doing quite a lot, honestly, with back and forth with LCN, the vendor for Wi-Fi and all of that. But in addition, she's been going through a lot. There have been a lot of updates from Microsoft about what they will and won't be supporting going forward. And so she's had to do a lot of updates on different computers and various software that we're running on Internet Explorer. And that's not going to be supported anymore. And as part of that is going through some of our very, very old computers that she's been hanging on to as backups, kind of, to see if we'll even be able to keep those as backups with some of these changes. So that's been a ton of work. And then the full-timers in circulation have been working together to update how our statistics will look going forward. I would like them to more closely mirror ARIS reporting, so that it's just very easy for us to kind of check against that towards the end of the year.
Tom, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Okay, I thought I saw Tom's hand up.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then summer reading has begun for everybody. There's a big kickoff event for the kids on June 28th, but you can start logging now. So that's been really exciting to get started with. And so there's a program for adults, there's a program for teens, and there's a program for children's. And that is, oh no, so personnel, I guess, is the next thing on here. We're currently interviewing for the technical services assistant position. That's going really well. We have, I think, 2 more this week, and then we will have a decision, and they'll be fully staffed.
That's a part-time position?
That's a part-time position,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
And then we'll be fully staffed after that?
Well, no, because I think, oh, you know what? I'm not sure if this was on last month's report, but someone was leaving from circulation. And so if that wasn't on my last month's report, I'm going to add it onto this one and I'll send out that revision. But we have one person that is leaving. So they were part-time in circ. And so we'll need to eventually replace them as well. Yeah, but we're pretty close. That's, you know,
yeah,
like one position
Great.
away. So that's, you know, that doesn't
It's a big deal.
long. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And now for the gift report, from the permanent donation fund, we had a few things happening. Dedham Savings Bank donated the money to buy Kindle Fire as a prize for summer reading program, which is something I think they've done regularly. Although typically my understanding is they usually buy the Fire itself and then drop it off. But this year it was a check to the PDF. So Ann McFate donated $300 in honor of Irene McFate. And the Needham Community Council donated $300 for English language learner books. And they were helping us choose what resources might be the most ideal. And then Anna donated a copy of His Name is George Floyd by Robert Samuel and Toulouse Olorunnipa. So we've added that to our collection as well. Yeah. And then I guess I would ask for a motion to accept the gift list.
So moved.
Carol?
So moved.
Oh, okay. Okay. Second? Oh, okay. Okay. Any discussion about the gifts? No? Okay. All in favor, roll call. Anna?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Me? Kay? Aye. Okay, good.
Right. So buildings and grounds is next. We repainted one of the study rooms. The custodians were going through a bigger sanitation process for the public areas, and the elevators passed full inspections now. You know, we had mentioned that one of them got a temporary approval and needed like a light and a battery changed, and those were completed right away, but they are now fully passed.
Quick question, was for painting, the gallery wall was supposed to be painted. Did that happen?
To my knowledge, that has not happened yet.
Okay.
Okay, I can tell you I've got it scheduled for happening in August.
Okay, good.
Okay. Let's see. So then our financial reports, just want to get them out, sorry. So for state aid, we had regular spending on overdrive and canopy, and we had a reimbursement for, oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. This was in my report incorrectly. The reimbursement for Sarah's MLA conference is coming from a trust fund, not from state aid. I didn't catch that, sorry.
Wow.
So just regular spending though. I think Jen and I had a miscommunication and it was put in as state aid, and then the town had kicked it back to us to say, don't you mean trust fund? And we said, yes, we do. So I'll need to amend that on the state aid actual report as well.
Okay.
Let's see. And then for trust funds, we had disbursements from the permanent donation fund for both adult fiction from Baker and Taylor and YA fiction from Baker and Taylor. It wasn't a big month for spending out trust fund money. We've been really focusing our efforts on spending out all of our municipal funding, and we've done a great job of that. This report is from June 7th, so it clearly, you know, it doesn't reflect everything that's going to come through. I think we're pretty sure we're we're only going to have a very tiny balance left if we've calculated correctly. So I'm looking forward to having that all settled next month.
Anyone have any questions about state aid or the budget or the trust fund disbursements? Okay.
So we'll have to make those. Okay.
Carol?
Could I just ask, when on the state aid, when you put overdrive, it's the advantage, right? That's what we're paying for each month, not the basic.
Right, that's still the overdrive advantage because the overdrive basic is like a
once a year. Or,
yeah. And that'll move into the municipal budget fiscal year 23, so July. Yes, yeah, I'm very excited. So
yes, that's a triumph.
Yes, and in regards to state aid, just a note that I'm hoping to have the budget for July, but it might be pushed to August. I think Dimitri and Jenna and I had talked about meeting in July, and because of some of the things we need to figure out with state aid money for strategic planning expenses, I'm gonna try to rework that meeting to happen sooner, but it's a little bit up in the air. We have to.
Yeah, and I know this comes up every year is how much of our state aid is encumbered. So when we get to the finance committee, they don't see we have all this money hanging there. So
yes, so we will be working on that. I'm just not exactly sure if we'll have it for July or for August. If we don't have it 100% ready to go for July, what I might ask to do is put aside some of it for the strategic planning consultant so that we know kind of what our ballpark is. But we can talk more about the strategic planning process later. We have that on our agenda.
But you might come to the board asking for a vote on a sort of one or two specific.
Potentially. I would prefer not to do that, but just as a heads up, that might end up how it shakes out.
Yeah.
Yes. For stats, they were down a bit in April from March. Pretty much across the board. Attendance, well, except for, I should say, the programs, which were pretty dramatically increased. So I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, but I know April vacation probably takes a lot of people out of town, things like that. But attendance at programs was up 341% for adults, 41% for YA programs.
Compared to last year? Or
compared to the previous month.
Compared to previous month.
Yeah. Yep.
So some of that is COVID related as people get more comfortable going out.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And are we running more programs, or how, does it have to do with more programs being offered?
Not necessarily, because it does show you the number of programs as well as then the attendance in a separate line. And so, for adults, it's 0% increase. It was not.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not a big change. So although that might be looking at 22 to 21.
Yeah, that's 21. That's the same.
That's 21. So it's saying, but it's the percentages are the month-to-month changes. So it's no, we didn't have more adult programs. We did have maybe one more YA program and had a few less actually in children's, but attendance was up. So yeah,
that's great. More people coming to the events.
Yeah, I think so. And hopefully that'll continue because now it's summertime and we'll have some outdoor programs, which is really exciting. The children's department in particular is going to be using the field across the street. Really looking forward to that, especially all the animal programs. Very, very big creature person, obviously. Yes. So we're paying attention to the circ stats, but I don't think it's trend so much as just it happened to dip. It's a big month for vacations. That brings us to new business. And Kay, I think, do you want to kick off that with select board goals?
Yes. So, okay. So the select board goals, I think everybody got a copy of this. They basically have asked if we have any input as a board. So far, I'm understanding this through Kim, who's been communicating with Katie, and if people got a chance to read this. I do have one suggestion, but let me open it first to a discussion by others. Carol?
I actually responded to Kate directly. I didn't realize this was a group effort. But the things that struck me in particular that I could mention in public was well, just in general for the town, decreasing the noise level by restricting the leaf blower things the way Newton has done, and maybe starting to require them to be electric. So that's not a library thing, but prioritizing a new phone system for the library, I thought would be really important in terms of, this is, I know there are other town buildings that may have similar problems with these antiquated phones, but the library promotes so many of the town's other goals, for accessibility and diversity and community, business, et cetera. They ought at least be able to be reached and have a conversation without static interfering with the experience. So I thought that would be one that we could suggest. That's all that I could mention in meeting.
So Kim, is that something that I'm not actually aware of that the phone issue. So is that something you would think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I believe I thought we've all talked about it as a group in terms of who would be in charge of it, because it's the building department. But they are looking at town-wide replacement of the phone systems in the next year or two. So I do think that I don't know, access to effective communication modes, like I don't know. Or, but yes, that is certainly something we struggle with here.
Okay. I just had one comment, and that is, I did notice that in reading all these pages of select board goals, there's nothing that refers at all to the library, even remotely. So I thought maybe as a board, we might ask them to insert a single phrase under the goal 4, which is their health. They call it healthy and social thriving. Needham residents enjoy high levels of physical, mental, well health, and recreational, cultural, and educational opportunities. So I just wanted to put out there a possible sentence in the list of initiatives. And, this is not too specific, so maybe it's not appropriate. You can tell me. But to encourage and support the Needham Free Public Library as the largest and most visible cultural institution in Needham, to continue to pursue its mission of inclusivity and economic and cultural diversity in offering its educational, cultural, artistic, and social opportunities to the citizens of Needham of all ages. So get the library in there. That was my thought.
Is it too late to do that?
I don't think so. They were asking us for response as a board, right?
I think that makes sense. I had a similar reaction, that there should be we should be on the list.
Yeah. And I think you could going back to the phones, where that one, we didn't say exactly where that might go, but I would have put it under accessible and connected, more or less what you were saying. Goal 3.
So they've asked for our input. So
Kay, just so I make sure too that I'm not missing the responsibility, are you writing these down to send?
I can.
Okay.
Unless if you prefer to send it in your
I think they were asking for the board to just send their consensus,
okay.
so I figure it would come from you, but I don't want to not have anyone taking the notes on that.
Well, I wrote that whole sentence
Okay.
myself, and then I heard what Carol has
Perfect.
to say about
Okay.
including the library in the new phone system plan for the town, right? That's basically what we're saying.
I would like to prioritize. It's there, but it's not given a whole lot of priority, and it's pretty important.
Okay, prioritize. That'll be the first verb opening the sentence.
Prioritize a new phone system at library. Yeah, that would be mine.
Yeah, and they can take or leave, you know, our suggestions, but they asked, so they're getting. Okay, so any other thoughts on the select board goals? No. Oh, Tom? Yes.
Yes, I think the, you know, I don't know what the select, why we want to be on the select board situation anyway, you know, because as you say, a lot of the things there don't refer to us.
Right.
I mean, because you have to remember, it's most of the things in their goals refer to the organizations and departments that they have responsibility for, you know, through the town manager. They don't have responsibility for policy type stuff, you know, even though the town manager is that, you know, is manages us, you know, manages the director, you know, and implements the thing.
Does the select board never get involved in library activities, Tom?
Not really.
I know that we've made appearances before the select board.
We have. That was like, for instance, we made a presentation to the select board when we did a new strategic plan to keep them informed.
And Rob, didn't we more recently, wasn't that the select board that we've spoken to?
Was it FinCom?
Oh, was it FinCom? Okay, excuse me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so Tom, you know, I want to take your wisdom.
But no, but it's fun. But we used to have some input. We used to send to, it was at that time, it was Dave Davison, for information about our particular goals that we had.
Our goals. Yeah, so this is not really specific to our, I mean, if you think this really isn't the time and place for us to sort of weigh in, or, you know.
Now, when the letter went out.
Carol?
Well, I was just going to say, Tom, would you consider the building department, the building maintenance department or building department to be in the same category as the library? I mean, the phone thing is really, I don't know if I have to look back.
No, it's a little different because the appointments there, you know, they have supervision of the facilities.
Right, that's the problem.
Town manager. But I like to think we're more similar to the schools in some respects.
Yeah, so in other words, the idea of asking them.
I looked at their goals briefly, but were there any goals about the school?
Well, when I didn't notice it, but
no.
When we need something at the library to function that depends on a different department, don't we need to make that known as a goal, and not just for the library? You know, we don't seem to have a whole lot of control over this otherwise.
It's not, but we don't manage a library, you know. Well, I mean, Kim can talk to, and now Katie, you know, Kim can talk to Katie, you know, but, you know, we have to remember that in this new situation, we don't manage the library.
Library building.
The building or the library itself. We set policy.
Well,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Us though, Tom, for our suggestions, this is a suggestion that they could take up. Right? I mean, this isn't that we're telling them what to put in their goals. We're suggesting, they asked, and we're saying.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. Well, I think, for instance, the thing that they'd have even more influence on would be the phone system, the upgrade of the phone system. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very good point to bring.
Okay, well, maybe we should just send in the phone suggestion, and if my more global statement is not really the right thing.
I don't think it'd hurt, but you know.
Okay, well, can I say something, Kim?
Yes, sorry, Jay.
I was going to ask you, by the way, Tom, what would be the negative of including it? And, I do mention that the introduction to the select board statement is talking about policy direction for town government. It's not limited to the responsibility necessarily of the select board. And I'm not sure what would be the negative about being included on the list of priorities for the attention of town government. So that's my sense, but I'd be curious to know if there's any risk or any negative.
Is there any risk? Not at this point, but I remember in the past when many years ago, when the select board tried to manipulate the school department.
So, and you're suggesting that we don't want to encourage the select board to kind of begin to meddle in the library. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not to meddle, but to, I think it's for them to recognize, the need that the library is
independent.
Recognize that it is independent, but it's also a positive thing for the town, and they should recognize that.
Okay, Anna.
Couple of points. I think that the example of the schools, I don't see it as applicable, because the schools, they have the school committee that is very distinct. The superintendent, the school committee, they figure things out. That is a very distinct structure. The library is dotted line to the town through Katie and Kim. So there is a connection there, right? So that's how I see it. Now, I understand Tom's input and feedback, yet I think the library should be considered a partner. So we play it too safe and we don't show up. We're always going to be kind of in the background. Okay, look at how much in the town meeting, when we were doing the space planning, folks were pushing back, right? We need to start taking some kind of stance that we are a partner to the town. So whichever way you want to word it, but I think we need to show up in a way that makes sense, that we are active participants, particularly of the goal number 4, which says, I think that fits, socially thriving, arts, culture, innovation. That is the library. So if there is a way to insert something that will include us as partners and to help them make that goal a reality, that's how I would word it.
Rob, do you have something?
Yeah, I totally agree with Anna. I think that, this is an aspirational document. It's not getting into a lot of detail for most of these things, except for the really major projects, and having something like, like what Anna said, partner with the library on programming or try to, really partnering with the library. I think that could be good and kind of get us on their radar in a good way. I'm not sure that having a smaller project, trying to include a smaller project in this would necessarily fly. It seems like the specific projects that are identified in here are pretty major ones. Some of the major ones that are on the town's radar. And in the future, if we've got a space redesign or something like that, this seems like the place where that would go. But I would be hesitant to put smaller projects on this.
I don't know how small this is. I don't know, maybe it's not millions, but it's actually, I think it's more of a financial lift than I would have guessed when we first were, somewhat complaining about it. The current system that had tinker toys, you had to replace a this or a that until there weren't any more of them on broken phones. But and we're not the only building, but we get a lot more communication, I expect, than most departments. So I would hope that we could get some priority. Maybe it is too small, Rob. I don't know. There were a few things that were a bit smaller that were specific in the selected goals. So maybe, yeah, I guess that's a judgment call. At least
Jay?
we were thinking. They don't have to put it in if they don't want to, but they'll know what we're thinking about over here, I suppose.
I just have a question, and Tom, you may be more familiar with how the town government process works, but is there a connection? I'm trying to understand clearly what, if any, is the connection between the library and the select board. There's a connection between FinCom and the select board, right?
No.
Not at all?
No, FinCom is a creation of the, is appointed by the moderator.
Okay, so I just want to try, I'm trying to.
They're responsible, well.
They're entirely independent from the select board.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Right. There's interactions between the two, but one does not govern or appoint the other.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it seems like our choices are either to, basically say your select board goals are fine and we're okay, or to try to insert this statement of that we would ask to partner with the Needham Free Public Library, blah, 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 in our mission and goals, plus make sure to prioritize the telephone update.
Kim has her hand up. Okay, just letting you know.
Oh, yes, Kim, sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to just mention kind of the FinCom thing is a good thing to remember, because I think I wasn't really thinking about this before, but it just connected for me too, that this is one of the things that when we write the budget, I have to refer to this document to say this supports select board goal, blah, blah. Like, so I sort of feel like
all the more reason.
Yeah, like Kay's statement in particular about, the cultural institution and like kind of fitting that in there somehow.
Yeah.
Would make sense. But the phones, I think also does too, but maybe we want to just offer that it's an expanded, like prioritize facilitating communication between residents and the government that serves them by prioritizing this phone project across the board. Like maybe it doesn't have to be limited to the library. I mean, this is all, again, I'm throwing it out there, but it's for you as the board to totally talk about and do or not do. But I sort of feel like, who cares? Like we could throw anything at them. My guess is that a lot of the reason that you don't see very specific projects or very specific mention of departments is because they know we use this document to write our budgets. And if they put it in there, it means
they have to say
like, hey, like, why aren't you letting us support this that you put in there that's so specific to us? But I don't see the harm in asking or at least suggesting rather.
Well, we can suggest these two items and send them over, and it's their prerogative to include them or not.
Remember, they asked.
Yeah, they asked. They could get a lot more. So should I move that or should someone move that we include these two items we've been discussing? One describing the partnership with Needham as the largest cultural and visible institution in Needham. I guess I can reread that to you. Would folks want me to do that?
Do we have to approve the final language right now, or
I don't not necessarily, but we should approve that we send them these two items.
I move that Kay translate these into some appropriate language that we trust her to fashion, mentioning both the suggestion and where it would fit in, what goal it would fit into for each of the two.
And
yes, and the Carol, the telephone one you had going under goal, which goal was it? Economically vital or accessible and connected. I see that. Yep, accessible and connected.
Yeah, I had it under number 3.
And mine would be under number 4. All right, and I'll wordsmith them according to what I've heard tonight. And are we going to vote? We need
procedurally, I don't think we have to take a motion or a vote on this.
Okay.
We've reached consensus, and you've got the guidance, and so and then you can send it on. I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to have an actual motion, because it's difficult to have a motion if the article isn't complete.
Isn't fully formed yet. And yeah,
I think it's
motion.
Reach consent.
Okay.
I will withdraw my motion in that case.
Withdraw your motion. Okay.
I don't think it's not necessary. Not that we know.
We take your advice, Tom, to heart. And okay, so
that could be dangerous sometimes.
we will with reservation. Okay, so we've decided our consensus on that, and so now we'll move on to the next thing that came over from the select board. In this case, this is the remote access policy. In this case, the select board is talking about this tonight, so we've kind of missed the deadline. But I just really felt like this is important enough that we should just be aware of what this is that they're discussing. And I kind of have a little nutshell summary, because this is a policy that's being proposed to the select board, written up by Katie King, is my understanding, and it applies only to board and commission and committee members in town. It does not have anything to say about the general public and their attendance remotely or not. And so basically what's happening in a nutshell is that the state law that allows remote participation on the part of board members is expiring July 15th. That's one day after our next meeting. So we can meet remotely on our next meeting. But after that, a full remote meeting will no longer be legal if they adopt this policy. A quorum of board members must appear in person. A remote option will be available to one or more members for specific reasons, and they're asking the chair to be very strict about applying these reasons: illness, emergency, military service, or geographic distance, which are pretty good reasons. And then the next constriction is board members must be clearly audible to each other. They need not be able to see each other, but they have to be audible. There are individuals who attend remotely can do it no more than 25% of the time. So that's significant. The chair must disapprove remote participation the chair must approve remote participation each time, and the select board asks for strict enforcement, and the member who wants to participate remotely must give 48-hour notification. So after July, our meetings will have to go back into person if the select board passes this. Just wanted to kind of put it out there that that's what's happening. If the select board. Carol?
Did anyone respond directly to Katie? No, I did actually. But
I did too.
Yeah, okay. I really did not favor, the state law does put some restrictions on who can be remote, and my thought was, people are willing to give of their time. Why do you make it so difficult? What the first meeting, the second meeting, the third meeting, and then the fourth meeting, if you need to be away again by chance, well, you're out of luck. Would you rather have that person participate or just be absent? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, I did submit my own preference that they, keep this down to a dull roar as far as even tightening it further than the state law.
Anna.
Yeah, I have not responded, but I wanted to be on record that I think limiting, accessibility, hybrid accessibility to boards in general, not only the library, goes against the goals we just discussed of inclusion and equity. It's a contradiction. So I think there's something to be said there, and I'm going to make sure I'll mention that to them.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in. Since we've gone remote, while it's certainly nice in a lot of ways to have in-person meetings, I think we've seen some advantages of being remote or hybrid. One of which is that our meetings are now recorded and are much more easily accessible to members of the public. They don't have to schlep out to the library. They can join by Zoom, or they can watch it on YouTube later. So it's really increased public participation and the ability. I mean, we never used to have people show up to meetings in person. Now it's quite regular to have folks join and listen in. So it's really facilitated that, having meetings have the remote option. And I would be all in favor of anything that would preserve that ability to do remote meetings as much as possible. The other piece is that, you know, it's allowed a lot of members of our board to participate while they are in other places during times when they would normally not participate. So it's actually, I think, increased attendance at our meetings. So I really don't see a reason to be any more restrictive than what the state law provides.
Rob, just so to mention, so if you look in Katie King's memo, not the policy itself, but in her memo, what you're talking about is remote access for the public, that they're going to continue to try to encourage.
Okay.
So, but that's not part of this policy. This policy is strictly wanting to get the boards back in the room together, so in person. So the public may still have options, but they haven't quite gotten to that yet.
Okay. I was thinking that, you know, if boards go primarily to back in person, I think what we'll practically see is, you know, not many of them are going to set up an owl if all of the board members are there in person, even if we have the technical capability to do that.
So, yes, Jay.
So I just have a question. I'm not sure what the in-person requirement means, but if we were to have a Zoom that was, you know, visible on a screen in the community room, would that suffice?
If only if there are four
I mean,
members.
in other words, is there a way to have it by Zoom and still meet the in-person requirements so that people can attend the meeting?
Only if 4 members of the board are there in person.
Including the chair.
Including the chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dimitri?
I mean, we are going to provide, you know, we have 2 OWL devices, so, you know, you folks will have to be in person, but in terms of providing access to the public, we'll be able to do that. Similar to what you're describing, Jay, it won't be exactly a Zoom meeting as this one, but it'll provide accessibility to the public to be able to participate and watch the meeting as well. So I don't think we're going to lose that.
Is it recorded when it's on the L?
That's
Yeah, that was
Yes,
my question too, if it's going to be
Yes, it
recorded.
is.
it
Yes,
is.
it is.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
A quick question, Kay, and I maybe just didn't see this in the document, but is there any carve out to this for a scenario where, you know, the case rates are really high, basically another public health emergency? Can, you know, because I'm just thinking, like, this past winter, there were points where the case rates were so high where it really wouldn't have made sense to have an in-person meeting.
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, maybe there is some language that I don't see, but at the moment, I don't see language saying unless another public health emergency comes, in which case people can go all remote. I'm not seeing that.
I would assume that all of everything in this proposed policy would go by the wayside if the governor declared another emergency allowing remote meetings. But I would guess it would have to, you know, would require another state, you know, decision about that.
I mean, so everybody individually is supposed to send their input to the select board, although, as I mentioned, they're talking about it tonight. I don't know if they're going to vote on it or what they're going to do, but, you know, I kind of personally just thought that the things that you need to be able to qualify to go remote are pretty reasonable. Personal illness or disability, a family or other emergency, military service, or geographic distance. I mean, that's a pretty, you know, that covers most bases for someone who can't come in person. Anna? Well,
if you have a family emergency, you're not going to be on a board call. Or if you're in a military, I mean, you know, I don't know if I'm understanding it wrong, but either or, you know, but you're out there somewhere traveling, you're not going to be on a call on the board or with the board. So that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Well, people have called in from vacation though, if they're.
Well, that is unfortunate, but you know, it's people's, they're on volunteer time, I suppose.
Okay, so this does not require a vote. It's just, I just wanted to raise all our awareness that this is happening and that you should reach out to the Board of Selectmen or
Katie,
if you have, you know, something you want to share. Any, Kim?
Yeah, so she had asked for the comment deadline of 6/9 because
right, I know
about tonight.
We're past.
But I also feel like if one of you wanted to jump off and go to the select board meeting and give a comment, this is really important. And I had given Katie some feedback as well. She said she was going to recommend to the select board that they clarify that personal and family health would apply and not necessarily make it emergency health kind of thing. But you know, this also, I'm hoping that the state just extends the remote policy because that'll preempt this. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
Okay. All right. So, well, unless somebody wants to zip over to the select board meeting, we'll just proceed here with our, okay, so what were we doing? Oh, yes. So
can we join it remotely?
I don't know, but I'm sure you probably can. I don't know. Funny. Okay, so our next item is state aid funding. Am I on that right? Yes. State aid funding update, which you kind of already talked about, Tim. Was there anything else?
No, just that we're hoping to at least have the part figured out about what we might be able to put towards the strategic planning consultant by July. But I'm hoping to have the fuller ask by July. I'm just not certain it'll happen. So it may be August.
Okay. Other comments on state aid? Am I in the right place? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong place. Okay, so, and then, so the appropriate behavior policy. This is a big topic for tonight. Kim, do you want to talk with us about this?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the issues that we constantly are running into is, you know, around food in the library. And while we don't want it everywhere, we do have certain areas that we've spoken with the custodians about their ability to clean easily, like things that are not over the carpet, stuff like that. And we would like to update the policy to allow for food in designated areas. But of course, when I'm looking at something, I was going a little more than that because there were other things about the current policy that felt like stuff I didn't really fully support, or the language of, like, most of the suggestions or the different rules that I have on the suggested document are the same concepts, but very different language around those concepts. So we talk about respecting the rights of other library users, failure to comply with staff directive, but there were some things also that just weren't really on here, like on the current policy. So talking about shouting, loud conversations, pushing, threatening behavior, anything like that is not allowed. When I think about a behavior policy, I think, what are the things we have to talk to patrons about and point to something? And a lot of those things weren't necessarily spelled out in the current policy. And so some of those things are things I added in. But then there were other things that are really just kind of a twist on what was already there. Silent study areas must be observed. Patrons should respect others' right to privacy. We respect materials, facilities, and furnishing. And that's one of the bigger changes is that food and drink may be permitted in designated areas, but drinks with lids and covers, and making it so drinks with lids and covers are permitted around the computers, because often you see like a sealed water bottle and someone has it out anyway. We're not going to, you know, we don't want to ask people about that. If their behavior is acceptable, it's acceptable. So we have appropriate attire being worn in all times at the library, like shirts, pants, and shoes, kind of to replace the keep your feet in shoes, keep your feet here, keep your feet there. Just kind of condensing some of the language. We've had issues with bicycles and things coming into the library here and there, not major issues or anything, but just things. But it didn't say that they, you know, that all these various things were like to be kept outside. So we added that in. We also got bike locks so that if people say, oh, well, I don't have a lock to put it on the rack out there, we have one for you. And let's see, there's not, like, it looks a lot different, but there's not a lot of changes to what we're allowing or not allowing. The only real change is to what we allow or don't allow is that food would be in designated areas. Oh, and possession of firearms was one that was not on here before. And we did have issues at Newton occasionally seeing someone with a concealed weapon or whatever. And so it can happen. And so I just wanted in our policy that that's a no. You know, some of the language I really focus on trying to make more positive language about what's allowed and then spelling out different things. Sometimes you can't get around that, but I just want it to feel overall not a list of don't do this, no, 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 like down the line. So it's really where I was coming from with it.
Can I ask a question about the firearms?
Yes.
What I see here is that if people have a license, they're allowed to bring firearms in?
Yep. Well, so
do we want anyone just because they happen to have a license to be able to bring in firearms to the library?
That is one thing that I'm not sure if we can just say no for the town. Like, I guess we can because we make the policy. I don't know. That we would probably want to check on the legality. Needham might already have an ordinance regarding firearms in town buildings. But that would,
because I would be inclined to limit it to law enforcement officers.
Yeah, I agree, Jay.
I'm honestly
the idea
fine
that
with
anybody with a licensed firearm can bring it into the library.
Well, if you're licensed to carry it anywhere, then yes, technically you can.
Well, hopefully we can.
But I do think we could change it to be a little more broad that possession of firearms or other dangerous weapons are prohibited. I mean, like, I don't even know if we
limit it to law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kim, you might want to check see what the town policy is for town buildings.
I'll check if there's an ordinance.
General.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever their policy is, to confirm whether we can adjust it so that we're limiting it to law enforcement officers.
Tom?
Sorry.
As we know, town meeting bylaws, you know, except that says firearms only by law enforcement officers.
Yeah, so there's a good example.
Great,
yeah.
Great. So then strike the licensed holders from the thing.
Yeah. I have one other question. I got a couple. I think I was going to wait till the end, but wait, we should do it now.
I see Anna has one too. So, all right, you're next, Anna.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, I just think you said 9. Library users may not consume alcohol or drugs in the building or in library grounds. I think that's you know, I think illegal drugs or something like that.
Yeah, good point.
I would hate to somebody not let them use an inhaler.
Okay. Point taken. Also, just I'm noticing too that 10 then goes to 10A, and that should actually be number 11. That needs to come out. That's not related.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just to that same point, is marijuana illegal?
But there's a separate thing that says smoking is not allowed.
Smoking, okay.
Well, no, but edibles.
Yeah, there's edible marijuana, so
that would be.
I mean, it's illegal.
There is a you know, public use of marijuana is
prohibited.
Is similar to alcohol. So
I think if you said, you know, illegal drugs, that would cover it. That would cover.
But recreational cannabis is legal.
But it's federally illegal.
Okay.
No gummies.
Tell that to everybody who's smoking in the parks. Anna?
Yeah, number 10, the dangerous weapons. I wonder if we could be more descriptive,
Sure.
like, sharp objects. I mean, I'm just, I don't know. I don't know if there's any language that is already used in town because dangerous, this is not dangerous. And it could be a knife or some kind of, I don't know.
That's true. Maybe actually just not even dangerous, just weapons so that it's not subjective. It's just calling that a weapon. Yeah, no, that's a great point.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
And to add to Tom's point about drugs, I think that, some folks may need to take medication. So how do we make the distinction between what they're not supposed to be doing versus, if I need to have a pill?
I mean, illegal drugs, I guess, would
So
be
some kind of,
okay. Yeah.
Okay. One last really picky thing.
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, 4 bicycles, inline skates, scooters. Okay, maybe not used in the library building or parking lots.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't get from one to the other, so it's not one great big lot. Especially since we lease one and license one and own the other.
No, that's a great. Yeah. Thank you.
It's very minimal.
Yeah.
I have one about people seeking signatures for nomination papers.
Yeah.
I'd like to have it for Needham. Should we have it for Needham nomination papers? And are permitted in the library. I would like to retrain it to the lobby, which is what the past policy has always been, at least informally, was to keep it in the lobby. So you're not wandering around the library disturbing people.
So the language on the old policy doesn't say that, but I think if that's what we've been doing in practice, we should codify it for sure.
That is what we've been doing in practice. And I've specifically been asked by our previous director to keep it to the lobby. And I think that actually worked very well.
Yeah. Do we want to specify first floor only lobby, or are we talking about in the second floor when people come in?
I would say first floor. So the second floor is right next to the quiet rooms. You do have to talk for the, to engage somebody to sign your signature. So it's a little noisy.
So what about Needham nomination papers?
Yeah, so should it be Needham nominations? I would suppose if it's.
I don't think you could do that.
Yeah. Okay. I
don't see any reason. I mean, it could be president.
Somebody for a state senate position or something. Yeah, that's fine. And Anna, just to check, I think you told me that the study carrels are now designated as a quiet area. Is that correct? I mean, I said Anna. I meant Kim.
Oh, that's why I wasn't answering. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Kim, you had mentioned that the study carrels are now.
They've been a quiet area, right? But it wasn't actually very quiet because
it wasn't quiet
on top of where the teens all sit. So what we did was we moved the two closest to where the teens sit. We moved them away because there would be nobody along the windows, and you'd have the one person that's in that section sitting at the closest one to all the noise. So we just kind of created more physical space, and we're getting part of our functional kind of updates that was funded by the grant was getting a like a hush panel, it's called, to help absorb sound. And we'll kind of put that in this one area.
Like a separation.
Like to help divide it. And then we'll have a sign on it that says like, that it's a quiet area. Like, because right now it's not super obvious that that's supposed to be a quiet area. So we're trying to make it feel a little more separate. But we want to keep it, we want to spell out where our quiet areas are, because that's the point of the policy versus the procedure. So if we shift furniture around and decide actually over here is going to be the quiet area, we would be able to do that, and people would have to follow the rules still.
Anna.
Yeah, I'm wondering if for folks who may have to take medication, not only pills, but, insulin shots or some other kind of medication that may, like I'm thinking needles or, pen or an inhaler or something, we can elaborate, EpiPen, I don't know. So I wonder if there is a way to say something, you know, for them to, that those are allowed, but that they could go to the bathroom, or I don't know. I mean, obviously we don't have a room, you know, like a first aid room in the library where folks could go. But I wonder what could we offer, or how can we word that?
I think just keeping it at, you can't consume illegal drugs, you know, like leaves people to figure out their own needs for medication and things like that's, you know, I think when you're diabetic, you're, you know, if you have to take insulin, you're very well versed in where to go to take it and maybe not doing it at a table, you know, like I don't want to, yeah. Like it,
okay,
like,
well, just
like, are you thinking that?
Well, yeah, there's a growing population of teens with type 1 diabetes in Needham, but there's also, you know, some seniors. So I just don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but
yeah,
if you think it's under control.
Well, I think they can do what they've been doing because it hasn't been a problem.
Okay.
I think if someone was leaving like a sharp needle somewhere and we had to talk to them about it, we'd have to just talk to them about it because that's, you know, that's potentially a safety issue and a biohazard situation.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I don't know the answer to this question. In the restrooms, is there a receptacle for sharps?
No.
There's not. Yeah, I had the same question just now and I was like trying to think. That's something that I'll talk to buildings about because we should definitely have that.
Yeah, it would be safer for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know if we noticed that there is a little omission here under the no sleeping rule. We used to have an exception made for someone who wanted to, I guess we would say, briefly nod off. Does anyone want to speak to that? No? We're all okay?
One of the other policies that you pointed us to had the language of people that habitually sleeping in the library. I mean, it's a little bit different from nodding off if they're, although by my observation, there are certain library patrons that habitually do nod off in the library and they're just reading and then this is where they like to sit to read and they do nod off.
So
I think
that's a matter of enforcement.
Done there, been there, done that.
Yeah, so do we think we need to make an exception for that or is it just assumed that that's okay?
Well, here's why I don't want to make an exception is because it could be a medical issue. So we always want to be checking on people if they look like they're asleep. That's okay. Like in my honest experience from Waltham and stuff, that's just not something I would ever mess around with. I want my people to talk to people, you know, and it's a gentle talking like, hey, you know, are you okay? You just sleeping? Okay, great. If you get the feeling they're just sleeping, great. If you get the feeling they're having trouble breathing or aren't responsive, we want to call 911. And, you know, I know we don't have that same level of issue here right now, but it would be a mistake to think that there isn't drug use or sobriety issues or things that would result us finding someone and calling. So
this policy went into effect when there was a situation with a homeless person who would you know, go into the one of those quiet rooms and barricade the window and go to sleep.
See, and that's also something I really want to stay away from is targeting a certain population. I don't want it to be that sleeping gets you kicked out. It's that you need to remain awake. We reserve the right to wake you up. But if it's someone who's struggling,
but this wasn't meant
for
the occasional, you know, senior citizen who nods off like I might.
Yeah. But no offense, if that happened, I'd want to make sure you were okay too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know.
Get ready to be woken up, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're.
But I do think that, you know, the concern with, you know, the homeless population and all that was a very is a very real concern that those individuals often need help. And so that's a good idea. But then again, if a certain point goes where, the help is not, taken the right way, then it's a situation that we should deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One last thing is I know a year or so ago we debated having a cell phone policy, and we ended up not passing a new cell phone policy. But Kim points out that that number B, shouting loud conversations, the term loud conversations is the key. It's not about whether you're talking on the phone or to another person that's present. It's really about the loudness of the conversation. So I just wanted to raise, are we fine with that as being the only restriction, or should it say something a little bit more loud or extensive conversations or phone conversations? Do we need to mention phones at all?
I would think just extended like
loud and or extended conversations
could cover whether you're in person or on the phone.
So loud or extended.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless you mean loud and extended.
Well, they shouldn't have to be both. Loud is either one, I think is.
I mean, in the library, there are areas where you can have quiet, extended conversations on and when you're working together with someone at a table, or as long as it's not loud, I wouldn't think that would be a problem.
Right. But the thing I'm concerned about is that these extended phone conversations where you got somebody calling and, gabbing with a friend on, and you're on the next table, and, or at the next carol, and you're hearing everything they're having for dinner, and that's just not pleasant for a library patron.
There is, you raise an interesting issue, Kay, because sometimes I think some conversations we've had in the past in some meetings about this topic is about folks who may be on the phone, looking for work, or there are other reasons why they need to be on the phone. So how do we manage, okay, you, because you're loud and talking to your friend, don't talk, but the person who is looking for work, or is looking, holding for a doctor's appointment, or trying to process a document. So,
it's a good question.
How do we draw the line? I don't know.
Somebody who is having an extended work conversation, is that okay? I'm not sure is.
What I try to focus on with the behavior policy is what behavior is problematic. Is a cell phone problematic? To me, no, right? Because you could be just as bothered by someone on the cell phone as you could by two teenagers chit-chatting next to each other. It's the volume, right? Like, it's not the vehicle by which they're having the conversation. It's the volume. That's what's disruptive to people. So I would hesitate to really get excited about something that specified the vehicle by which you're having a conversation, because I think Anna brings up a really good point. If you're on the phone because it's a job thing, go for it. Just keep it down, like the same as everybody else. So that's, I don't know.
And we also
are we okay with people coming to the library, for their work day and spending the day there talking on the phone, doing their job?
There are people doing that. They're working from home and they go to the library.
And having, I guess what I'm worried about is not the working, but the, potentially
they have meetings.
Long phone conversations.
Yeah, they have meetings. That's part of their work. I cannot attest to how many are out, but that's happening.
And I don't see a lot of extended phone conversations, honestly. And I worked with the department heads to craft this policy, and they just pointed out some of the things were just not things that they actually police or that they don't see very often. So I think really focusing on the actual problem, like the root of the problem is the volume.
Okay.
The volume quiet.
Right. Maybe we could get the word quiet conversations in somehow.
Well, so you know, loud conversations aren't
Loud.
allowed.
Okay. Quiet
And
conversation.
open to our interpretation of to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's loud and
or loud. Like we are finding you loud. I think that's, you know, an area where I'd want it to be vague enough that we have that subjective power to know, or to have a patron come and complain and say, oh yeah, they are kind of loud, let me talk to them.
And then there's C, which is observing the silence.
Yes.
Yes. Which follows immediately after.
Okay.
I love this. I think you're the only one that Needham's the only one that has pants involved with the required clothing. I noticed that most.
I think Brookline might have, but
like
yes.
Shoes and shoes and shirts. But,
yeah.
What? We require pants?
That's the last time Donald Duck can get from the place.
Where does it refer to pants?
3, number 3. It says appropriate attire must be worn at all times.
Oh,
pants.
That's an example. It doesn't mean you can't wear shorts.
Right. But you need to have some kind of bottoms. Unless maybe you're in one. Diapers allowed. But hopefully clothed.
So I think if we're good on that, I guess, so we'll vote on it next month. And we'll
and in the meantime, we can continue to have conversations, you know, or if there's grammatical issues or changes we want to make somewhere with the language. The way, and then at our next meeting, if there are changes, we can vote to approve it as amended based on those changes, is my understanding. Is that how it goes? Okay.
Carol, is that your understanding?
I just wondered, well, you know, I do, just following our own policy. It's not that it wouldn't be effective if you voted on something with changes made at the second meeting that were of substance, but just it looks like we're not following our own rules. It seems to me if we
we can
do too much of that, which is why I suggest we ratify another policy that we did make some substantive changes on. Even though I have no doubt that it was effective as to the public from the time we voted. But I was going to say, could we have, Kim, you send us a, you know, like a red line or something so we could see? Or
you know,
it
got to be so much that I was changing and that I was adding in separately that it wasn't super helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I had tried to provide that, and then it was just like all the things were changing. Yeah, so I don't have one at the moment.
I'm just trying to think of alerting, being alerted to which things are no longer.
So Carol, what we're saying is next month we'll review the edited version, and then following month in August we would vote. Is that what our normal?
Can I actually, so I had some questions about that, and the intent as I read the document is to make sure that the public has noticed that we are discussing something before voting on it so that they could come give their input and then we could vote on things. But it reads the same as minutes where you can vote as amended at the meeting. The point is to notify the public, to my mind, is to notify the public that they have an opportunity to come if they see this on our agenda and know that, okay, they talked about it last month, I have to be at this one so I can say my piece about it. So I just, I don't know. I think we need to maybe get some clarity around that because it's going to be a year or so of going through a lot of policies.
I mean, I don't think we've ever had a problem with making minor changes or grammatical changes at the second meeting, but when there are actual changes to the substance of what was proposed, then I do think that it's actually wiser either to wait or just to plan to ratify the next month, that you really, you know, after the trustees, never mind the public, the trustees, let it sink in a little bit what those changes amount to. I mean, I would think policy changes ought to be sort of made carefully. and that always involves a bit of delay. Unless you just want to approve it for the sake of it having some important change made, but you may end up needing to ratify if you make further changes that seem to be of substance rather than just minor. I mean, I don't really see that.
Tom? Looks like Tom wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I have you talk, the thing about the input from public input, this is not a public hearing. And the public is not allowed, we have, comments beforehand, we allow before the meeting, but during the meeting, when things the public can't participate.
Right, but they
public
would
hearing. If this is something that required a public hearing, that would be. I mean, it's good for us to take about, but not that we've ever. I don't know whether, but that's not the point of this, of the delay of the week, to give public input. Not at all.
It's sort of more like measure twice, cut once kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
For the trustees, and in fact, the public would not have this proposed document from you, would they?
They would have it at the second meeting, right? Because it all gets published. But
in the minutes.
Yeah, where we're talking about changes in the minutes.
But before the minutes were online, this and the agenda went online, there was no way that the public would have known that.
I mean,
you'd be able to respond.
So yeah, it's trustee bylaws. It's however you all want to interpret them. But in talking to Katie about that need and what that meant to ratify something after it had been voted upon, that's where it came up that the intent for this usually is X, and that in other boards, they would accept changes, even substantial ones, at that second meeting and then just approve as amended. But I'm fine to do it however you want. I just would like to understand more of what, like, voting and then ratifying, what that means for us, like in terms of actually implementing the policy, so that I understand that, because we're going into, like I said, like, I'm planning to look at a lot of our policies. So I want to make sure I have a very good understanding of what the normal expectation is. But I think I do. You're saying if it's substantial changes at the second meeting, we would go to a third.
We've had this policy for a while, and you have to remember that what we do is policy now. So
that's our job.
That's our job is policy. So
I
think it's a good idea to take our time on it, but and also maybe get some input, But I think the staff has, I prefer the input from the staff than the public.
Anyone else want to weigh in on this question of whether we should vote on a document, on a policy where we're making substantial changes at that meeting? Anna?
I think another factor to consider is the timeliness. This particular policy seems to be of, time is of the essence, in my opinion, because school is ending, kids may come in, there is more of a need to establish kind of, a new kind of remind folks, this is the behavior we're expecting at the library. So to me also, we need to consider, as we are reviewing policy, what kind of policy do we review based on the timing, as appropriate, kind of like fitting it with the time as seasons change and so on. So this particular one, I would advocate for pushing it as quickly as is possible within the confines of, the limitations of our protocol. But I think because the school's ending, kids are getting off school, there may be more of a laxed kind of demeanor. I think it's important to have something clear out there as soon as we can.
Carol?
I don't think we've had much of a problem with this in the past. Although in 2020 we had several major policies that really took a lot of months to get really to a vote, because there, kept being new input, and partly was children in the library, and it was this one which was modified in 2020. But these were actually proposed and by Anne and under discussion for several meetings, as I recall. They're major, but in general, most of the policies haven't required, what discussion we've had at the initial presentation of a, policy change. We've discussed, we found some changes. Those changes would show up at the next, minus maybe some grammatical things or punctuation, and we'd vote on it, and that would be the end of it. And for the most part, I think that is what's likely to happen, unless you're going to shake things up a lot, which maybe, but
well, I guess no, like I think, like I don't know what the history has been like, so I'm trying to get the picture of how should I expect this to go generally, but I think I hear what you're saying. And I would then encourage anyone, because what I'd like to do is get a lot of feedback in the next week or two if possible, and then be able to send it out so people have time to sit with it for that week or two, like I did with the last one. And so that way, hopefully we don't have substantial changes on the second meeting.
The only law in making major changes between meetings that were not brought up at the meeting is that's a conversation between one trustee and you, and it may come through in the policy. It leaves out what happens at a meeting, a discussion of whatever that is, and people do have differing opinions on things.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I would hesitate to do a whole lot of substance changes before the second round, and then want to vote on the change.
Yeah, and my intent is going to be to have really thought it out before I'm bringing something up, and to work with my department heads to kind of give that staff input on what they're seeing too. So hopefully it'll just go smoothly.
Maybe it would help if you told us that you were going to work on X policy, so that people would be familiar with it, and they maybe sort of formulate some thoughts on it ahead of the first presentation.
Yeah, that would be that would be good. I don't have my sights on anything in particular next after this yet, but it sounds like maybe if I kind of give a heads up at the next meeting, that would be a good time for people to start looking at something, right?
Or you could even, if you're starting to work on it, you think you're going to send something out at the next meeting, send around an email saying, policy X.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that I understood with the previous one, the book challenges policy, there was urgency with that one. But as a general rule of our policy changes, I don't think we need to rush them through. I think a second meeting, if substantial changes are proposed and accepted on a second meeting, going to a third meeting, I personally don't think that's a bad idea unless there's real urgency. I know Anna just made the case that there is real urgency on this, but it's not the same as a book challenge where we wanted to have a policy in place before something like that happened. So I guess I'm sort of more in Carol's camp on this.
It's not urgent, but it's the timing. Yeah. It's more of a timing issue. Which is, I see a difference, but
yeah.
So are there any changes of what you would call really of substance that you think will happen between now and next meeting on this particular one? I don't see anything that we couldn't vote on next meeting as per usual.
I think unless someone's not just speaking up now, it doesn't sound like it, but yeah, people might have more thoughts later when they look at it.
Yeah. Tom, did you have something further?
I'll just make a comment. This thing was first January 1993, 97, 2005. And we've made many changes in the last since this new library opened, because they recognize the changing things. Like, believe me, in 1993, there was no need to think about cell phones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I have to say, when I first joined in the library board, in the last millennium, second millennium, I don't know when it was, but when I just joined the board, we used to have a police detail on duty every evening.
Wow.
The turbulent 60s.
Yeah. All right.
Right, that
Wow.
decade.
I can verify that because I worked many nights as the library page back in the 60s and the 70s. And yes, we most certainly did have a police detail, and they actually got to do a bit for their money a couple of nights. So yes, we had a police detail.
There was a plainclothes detail.
Yes, it was plain clothes, but they were sitting there, and believe me, they had to break up a couple of fights.
Wild times at the Needham Library.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
And you know what else was there? A
What in the
card
bag?
cat. He stood next to the card catalog.
Okay. So I think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. I just are there more comments that I can take down about the substance of the policy to adjust? I have that we'll add lots. We'll add illegal in front of drugs. I'll look at the weapons thing and see if we, if there's some language we could spell it out, but I'll take out the dangerous part so that it's just weapons. And we're going to leave the firearm thing as is for the time being, but I'm going to check on the ordinance to make sure that there's nothing against what the town's actual overall policy is for their public buildings. I'm going to move 10A out to be 11 because that's supposed to be its own thing. And then the numbers will just adjust from there.
Oh, and service animals, do they need to be accredited in some way? Is there some term that we can put in?
There's actually, the state law is just that you can ask, is it a service animal? They say yes or no. If they say yes, the only other question you can ask is what service is it trained to do?
Okay.
Perform. Yeah.
I noticed one of the other policies actually distinguished between emotional support, whatever you call them, dogs, I guess.
Yeah.
And ones that are actually within a definition under the statute.
Service animals is the language under the statute. Yeah, emotional support doesn't count. So if someone volunteered that it was emotional support, we would have to say no, unless we want to say service animals and emotional support animal, but then you're getting into like what animals that, because you can have a pony as an emotional support animal, and you can have, I think, a dog. It's specific.
I've heard of iguanas.
Yeah, it's fairly specific, but I don't know if we'd want to open it up to emotional support animals or just actual service animals. I would probably feel more comfortable with service animals, but
yeah, so that's under the state statute, under the definition of service animal, and it would not include. Yeah, I would think we should leave it with the defined.
Yeah. That makes, yeah.
Pretty terrifying stories about people who've brought, emotional support livestock onto planes. Just...
One other thing on this policy.
Yes, Carol.
You did not mention, just going through these changes that you're going to add in what's now 11, the new 11.
The lobby. Thank you.
In the first floor lobby of the library building.
Yeah, thank you. Glad I read that out. Okay. All right.
Okay, good. So we're done with that. And it'll come back next month. We now have the vacancy that we're filling, and I just wanted to once again remember Rick Hardy, who passed, and that we honor and respect his memory as we fill this vacancy. So we're all set. We have a meeting set up for next Tuesday from 7 to 9 in the community room to interview our applicants. There will be no remote. It's in person, and so far from what I'm hearing from the trustees, everybody can come. Marcus Nelson can also come, and I'm assuming Kim will want to be there, right? So we have, just so you know, Miles Tucker of the town administration initiated a phone call meeting or Zoom meeting for tomorrow with myself, Kim, Marcus Nelson, and I guess those four of us to discuss the logistics and procedure. So we're still a little, haven't quite nailed down what the procedure is going to be. One question is, you know, the one applicant who can't make it to that meeting. We have this proposed idea that she could have individual, as a member of the public, she's welcome to call her elected officials of the library board and Marcus, and that's one idea that's been proposed. I guess there's going to be a little further discussion on that, and I don't know what other alternatives there are, but I won't know any answers to that until after the meeting tomorrow night. So I circulated a list of questions that Carol was kind enough to find. Kim did a little bit of, added some information about book challenges. And so I think the plan will be for each of us to choose 2 questions and ask the same questions each time to each applicant. So people can choose questions tonight if they want to, or what do we think? The idea is, you know, each applicant will have the same set of questions. Anybody want to choose questions tonight? We have the list. You have the list in front of you, which was sent out as yesterday or today. I think today.
Yeah.
Hey, we are way behind on the agenda. I don't know if there's a different way to do this.
So, I mean, we could do that later by email, choosing questions. So that's fine.
Could you just assign them?
Or I could assign them. If people have preferences, please communicate with me. Okay. That sounds good. And you're right, Anna. We're kind of moving along here. Okay. So we have what's the next thing? Oh, strategic plan update.
Whoa. I think you skipped over the collection development policy ratification.
Oh, okay. You're right.
This was the one where I felt there was enough changes of substance between the first and second meetings that I would feel comfortable if we just ratified our decision to approve it. Just really as a matter of our own internal procedure. And so I would propose that. I put that as a motion to ratify the collection development policy.
The one that we voted unanimously on last month at their last meeting, we're going to vote to ratify.
That's it.
Okay, that's her proposal. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Second. Okay. Now, does anybody want to further discuss that policy? Okay, hearing none, I will take a roll call. Jay.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Okay. Aye. All right. So that's passed unanimously, ratified unanimously. So yeah, sorry for having jumped over that one. So now we have the strategic plan update. Does anyone who feel Kim, you want to start in on that?
Do you want to give a review? You've had most of the follow-up, and you can summarize also what we talked about earlier.
Sure. So I met with 2 consultants and had pretty productive meetings just hearing about their process. The long and short of it is that we have to do an RFQ process anyways, which is a request for quotes from people. So I have a meeting with Dave Davidson tomorrow to go over what that entails to get started. We will need to figure out what our funding is at the July meeting. From there, we'll just be putting out the quotes and hopefully have that kind of going by August. So that's sort of the timeline that we're looking at. I don't know.
Rob and Jay, do you have any anything to?
Only that I think we've, taken a big step in terms of getting the process started. We were waiting for Kim to sort of get settled in before we pick this ball up again, and we're sort of at that point. And now, Rob and I met with Kim. She's had the initial conversations and feeling comfortable that we're gonna have someone good to work with us on this project. And I think we're happy to be at the stage where the answer to your question at a trustees meeting is not simply that there's nothing to report. Now we have something to report. We're getting the process started, and we're hopeful it'll be helpful, not simply for purposes of creating a strategic report, but more importantly for thinking about and determining what's the strategy, which will guide us over the next few years.
Yeah, the big thing right now is just getting through that RFQ process, working with the town on that. So we're kind of in the early stages of that, but finding a good consultant, I think, is really important for this process. It adds a lot of value. So there's kind of, we want to make sure that we make the right decision on that.
Sounds good. I guess my one thought is that at some point, maybe it's when we have the consultant on board, to have the trustees have a chance to talk about, right now we're talking about sort of let's look at the forest rather than the trees. So right now we're putting in place the trees, and that at some point we have to talk about like what it is we might be wanting to achieve with the strategic plan, and loop in the board at the appropriate point.
Definitely. That'll be like fully a focus group, I think, at this point. So there'll definitely be opportunity for that. Yeah, happy to get it underway, but that's kind of it. I won't have much more information until tomorrow. So
good. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have the equity and inclusion.
One quick update. We had the last Needham Connects gathering online for Poet Warrior, a memoir by Joey Harju. It was May 26. It was, there were maybe 5 attendees, so a small gathering, but we have the recording uploaded. Thank you, Gay Ellen and Danielle. And we also, the one thing about this one discussion is that we incorporated some music into, so as people were coming in, we had some music playing from the author, because she also is an artist. So, she records music. So it was kind of like a multi-dimensional experience. So it was great. So thank you.
And I would just add to another, which falls under equity and inclusion in a way, is the Stacey Hamilton, who showed up with her entire family and friends and a whole large cadre of her family, which was really, really heartwarming. And she did a nice little sort of informal reception on Saturday to describe her exhibit, The Black Women of Massachusetts, and how and why she does that sort of photography. So it was actually quite touching and moving. Okay, so on to the Library Arts and Exhibits Committee from Carol.
Thank you. So that was part of it. It's this really wonderful exhibit that's up right now. But to move things along, the committee did meet on June 1st. The Art and Exhibits Committee did meet, and I do need to ask you for approval for an artist named Lori Bogdan, who does torn paper bird collages, which would be for the case, the display case, and Nancy Present van Broekhoven to display her watercolors on the wall. Neither of these artists has been approved. They're recommended to you by the art committee, but haven't been voted on by you to approve them. So I would like a motion to do that. Probably the Nancy Present van Broekhoven would be displaying in September, and maybe a little the last week of August and September, Gay Ellen? And,
yes, I'm on vacation during my usual hanging day. So yeah, it's going to go up a little early.
right,
There'll be nothing for August on the wall because I'm hoping to get it painted at some point during August.
Right. And in July, there will be masks from the advocates program. So there will be kind of a little empty space during August, but that's the time that we need to have it open to paint. So hopefully that will get done. So that is what I do need a motion and to approve those two artists. Laurie Bogdan, Bogdan, and Nancy Present, like birthday present hyphen. If you're taking this down, Van Broekhoven, VAN, all one word, VANBROEKHOVEN, is the watercolorist. So I do need a motion and for that.
So moved.
Seconded.
And has Nancy Van Broekhoven, has she exhibited here before?
I don't think so. I've seen her elsewhere, other libraries.
I want to say she's been part, I think, of the exhibit for the Open Studios, maybe with one piece, and maybe also for the Needham Art Association with one piece, but she's not had her own show.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can't second. I'm chair. Somebody else go.
Somebody did, Rob. But...
Okay. All right. So we'll take a roll call. Jay.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Kay. Aye. All right. Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
So now we have McIver Series. Is that? Where are we on that?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Friends of the library.
We had a nice program this past Sunday. We had about 60 attendees. Jeff Speck was the speaker, and he was talking about, potentially the future of Needham, walkability, bikeability, and urban planning. It was, I would say, well received. We also had a few town officials who joined us, and it was a fairly timely event, so that went well. And the Friends also held their annual meeting at the beginning of that and appointed all of the officers for the year.
And I just wanted to say, I thought Jeff Speck, it was fascinating. And also, I just so much appreciated the amount of time and effort he put in to look at Needham and come up with ideas. And he really invested himself in figuring out, some of the pros and cons of Needham's town planning layout. And
he must have drove up and down Great Plains Avenue.
Yeah, Great Plains.
Yeah.
Was that recorded?
It was recorded by the Needham channel. So they should be putting it on YouTube at some point in the near future.
Thanks.
Yeah, Carol, usually it takes a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They will also be giving us copies of it in whatever format we ask, and we'll put it up on our own YouTube page when I get them.
Oh, great.
Great. I hope all our town officials watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess that's the Friends report. Library Foundation, Joan?
Yes, hi. We have our final meeting of the year was in June, just last week in person. It was a very successful meeting. We have 14 board members for next year. And we have new officers, including a co-president for next year. So hopefully you'll meet her next year.
Who
is it?
Beth Hammerstrand.
Huh.
And that's the most important thing. We're just very excited to get some new blood into the foundation. And we're looking forward to next year. Oh, and Kim, I don't think you've mentioned, we were really excited about the video games. That was just a great grant to
That's
approve.
right. Thank you.
Very excited about that one.
I forgot to mention that we had a grant for video games.
Yeah. And the total was, well, not including adult programming, we approved 20,000, a little over 20,000. But we expect for it to go up.
Thank you.
And you also have your ongoing fundraiser for the balustrade, and what's the other?
And the window that overlooks the parking lot upstairs.
Oh, yes.
And so far we have 8 and 8.
Oh, so making progress. That's great.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. That's the foundation. Anything further about the foundation?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so trustee comments. No trustee comments. I do have one question, being chair, is that we don't seem to have, if a member of the public wanted to talk, do we have, somebody mentioned in this meeting that the public has an option to say something at the beginning of the meeting, but we haven't done that. So this is really just a procedural clarification for me. Dimitri?
I do monitor the chat box, so it's been rare, but if we do have a comment from whether it's staff that are attending or the public, I'll get your attention and say we have a comment in the chat box.
Oh, okay, so as I read, it's only chat, so and that can happen anytime during the meeting, right?
That can happen anytime, and I monitor that. I'll alert you if there's something in there.
Jay, we also
time, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Let me clarify that too. I also have the ability, if we are still doing Zoom, to promote someone into the room if you have substantive conversation you wish to have about whatever they're bringing up. So I can bring them into the actual room here for them to do their, say what they want.
Okay, that's good. Tom?
Yeah, we have in the past, if people have showed up during, this is before we had the public comment, we can allow people to participate in the meeting, you know.
Oh, we can. And would it be like during the middle of the discussion, or is there a special?
It could be any time, but we don't have to.
Yeah. Okay.
At some point in the past, I think we used to have an agenda item for, you know, any public Q&A or something like that at the beginning of the agenda. Just
we used to. We did that before. I forgot that it wasn't here anymore.
Yeah, I guess probably pre-Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so it was. Yeah, it was.
And we may be going back in person soon, so which is important.
And that was before. But that was before we opened the meeting.
Before we opened. Oh, I see.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
It was not part of the. It was not part of the meeting.
The select board routinely has that and has continued to have that. I think throughout
a public comment period.
And the planning board got in trouble for it.
Oh.
Well, prior to COVID, we had folks come in before up in the conference room, and they will sit in the corner and stay as long as they wanted. And if they had a comment, they will make it before the meeting started. When we had applicants for trustee vacancies, they will come and also be part of the meeting. So that was part. And if the select board is going back to in person, then that may be the setting again.
Yep.
Okay. So for now,
one other time more recently, and Jay can attest to this, that he was invited to participate in the meeting after the election, but after the nominations closed, and unless there was a strong write-in vote, he was going to be. So we allowed you to participate, Jay, right? And then then we closed the library right after that.
Yeah. Great.
Are you blaming my participation?
I didn't say that.
Shutting down. So our next meeting, I presume we will do in Zoom again, but the following one after that we may be back in person depending on what the town decides, right? So, okay. Well, I'm going to call for a roll call to adjourn unless anyone else has a trustee comment.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, okay. Second. Okay. Roll call. Anna.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
Kay. Aye. The meeting is adjourned.